All right, we're live, man. Everybody, welcome back to the AllStar MMA Pick Show. I'm your horse. I'm your host. I am a horse, below the waist. I'm your host, JHK, and I'm joined by JSpec as always, as well as our guest analyst, the fight analyst, Garrett Kerman. Today, we will be talking about UFC Vegas 68, which also includes the Road to UFC finals going down in Las Vegas in the UFC Apex. We will go through all the fights. We'll talk about the fights. We'll talk about the fighters. We'll make our picks and predictions. And throughout the show, we'll be utilizing the AllStar app and its picks option. Go into the descriptions right now, down below in the descriptions. Download the app, follow along, make your picks, contest our picks, win prizes. You know what I mean? And I'll show you guys throughout the show how to make the picks because I'm gonna put the app on the screen and I'll make my picks. And I actually got my blue belt. I accomplished my blue belt level, so it unlocked the method of how you would win the fight, as well as what round. So you could pick the fighter, you could pick the method, and then you could also pick which round. And if you hit all three, man, that's major points for you. And then, like I said earlier, it's prizes galore. So, man,
Congratulations on that blue
thank you
belt.
so much. Thank you so much, JSpec. Well, how'd you do last week, man, on your picks? Like, what was your record for UFC 283?
Wow, I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of myself. It's all luck, just throwing it up there, taking your best shot. I did 11-4, so 11 victories, 4 losses on last week's picks.
All right. Well, that's not that bad, man. If let's say you threw money on that, 11-4 is pretty good. Let's say you put $100 on every fight, you probably come out pretty decent. I actually went 10-5 last week for UFC
Nice.
283, and the week before the first event of the year, UFC Vegas 67, I went 8-3. So my total for the year is 18-8, and I've been doing a little investigating. JSpec not so good on the first week. UFC Vegas 67, he went 3-8, so his total record is 14-2. So we're gonna be tracking this throughout the year. I'm gonna be competing against JSpec, and as well as I'll be competing against people that are watching the show, following along, and joining the community. You guys play along with us. Bring your friends in, build the community, make a league, win contests, win prizes. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're adding a lot of stuff to the app, so you guys need to jump in first. Be the first adapter. Be one of the originals, right? Now for the upcoming show, UFC Vegas 68. Let's kick it off, man, with the first matchup of the night, a flyweight matchup. Let's put the app on the screen. A flyweight matchup between it's Japan versus this card is like a really, really international card. It reminds me of
Yeah, it is.
Street Fighter, like Korea and Taekwondo versus, what I mean? Like it's like the Brazilian versus it's Japan versus Mexico in this flyweight matchup. We got Tatsuro Tarara. He's a 23-year-old youngster, man. He's a very young kid, undefeated, 12-0 record, 2-0 already in the UFC, and he's on a 21 fight win streak, 9 finishes, 7 of them in the first round, and he has victories over CJ Vergara and Carlos Candelario, which is, to me, for a 23-year-old, those are some solid victories. He's facing off against Jesus Aguilar, 26 years old, 8-1 record. He will be making his UFC debut, 8-fight win streak, 6 submission finishes, and he is a Contender Series contract winner. Fight analyst, man, what do you got, man? What do you think about this one?
I mean, minus 1,100, right? I think that, it's kind of hard to not take Tyra in this fight. I mean, he's young and up-and-coming prospect. He's looked phenomenal, like you said, against really good competition in CJ Vergara and Carlos Candelario. I think it's kind of more of the same, as those matchups. Aguilar is kind of, he's a decent boxer. He's got a decent wrestling game, ground game, but he's not better literally anywhere this fight goes against Tyra, which is why he's in a minus 1,100 favorite. I think Aguilar's only possible way of victory is his patented guillotine choke that he's got, but Tyra's got to put himself into that position, and I don't expect him to do it. I think he's way too good, way too smart to make that mental lapse, and I think he actually schools him, to be honest with you. He gets another good win, probably a submission win, possibly. Who knows? But, man, he's going to look good. gets 3 wins in a row, and then he keeps it moving from here. You got to give him someone ranked after this fight. I mean, the dude's got a ton of skill. You can't just keep feeding him to these, contender series guys like Vergara and Candelario. So give him someone ranked already after 3 wins, and let's see what he's really made of.
JSpec, what do you see? What you got for us?
Well, there's obviously the A side, right? There's no hiding that. Tyra, 11, negative 11.26 at the time of this airing right now. So, it's really slanted. It's hard to find things that favor Aguilar in this fight. He's got no KO TKO victories to his credit. He's essentially making his debut against a fighter who's already 2-0 with good wins. You already mentioned against CJ. So 85% of the adoring picking public, and that's all you fans of the AllStar, 85% of them going with Tyra in this one, and you're not going to catch me going against the herd. I'm supporting Tatsuhiro Tyra. That's my pick.
All right, so with that analysis and from what I've seen from Tatsuro and Jesus, I'm gonna go with the heavy favorite, man. What happened? What just happened?
Sometimes computers don't like what we do.
Nah, it's just I think it's my connection. What is it? Anyways, let's remove that. Anyways, I'm gonna go with Tyra. I'll probably end up taking. Here we go. Just some technical difficulties, folks.
They happen to all of us.
Yes, it happens to all of us.
Happened to me earlier.
All right. Yeah, that's right. All right, so we're back here. Okay, so let me put this back on the screen. Add this to the stream. All right, so I got Tiara. I'm going to take the favorite. He has like so many submission wins, right? So I'm going to take the submission win. And I think I'm going to go with the first round. I think he's going to go fast and heavy. I think he's going to go quick, and he's going to get that win. Let's go to the next matchup. The next matchup is a middleweight matchup between Junyoung Park and Denise Tulululin. I don't know how to say his name. Tululin, right? Korea versus Russia. Park, he is 31 years old, 15-5 record, 5-2 in the UFC, and on a 2-fight win streak. He has 9 finishes, 4 in the first round, and he has wins over Joseph Holmes, Eric Anders, and Marc-Andre Ballard, which are pretty good, decent wins for a guy that only has 7 fights. Denise, 34 years old, 11-6 record, 1-1 in the UFC, 8 KO victories, 6 in the first round, and he picked up his first UFC victory last September with a knockout over Jamie Pickett. Garrett, what do you got for this one?
I gotta go with Park, man. I appreciate that, man. As far as this matchup goes, right? Tululin, I think he's got the power advantage, right? He's got a ton of KOs, first round KOs. I think he's a little bit better on the feet. But then when it comes down to the grappling, we know Park is way better. Talk about a guy who's averaging 2.27 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's successful on 54% of those takedowns, which is, that's fucking fantastic. That really is good. And then we've seen Tululin get taken down, get beat up by Kizriev in his UFC debut. And I kind of expect more of the same here. And even on the feet, I think Park can definitely hold his own. I think he's the better boxer of the two. I think he's more, technically sound on the feet, especially defensively. The only guy that really rocked him on the feet was Gregory Robocop Rodriguez, who's arguably one of the hardest punchers in the division. And you look at Park, he was able to go in there and bang it out with Tafon Nchukwi. I mean, I think he's got more power than Dennis Tululin anyways, and he's a much better technical striker as well. And he was able to go in there toe-to-toe with him, take him down, rinse and repeat. And I feel like it's got to be more of the same, kind of like that fight, and get 3 wins in a row. I mean, he's beaten some really decent competition. Like I said, Joseph Holmes, Eric Anders, Tafon Nchukwi. I wanted to say Phillips is a good win, but those 3 wins are better than Dennis Tululin, I'm taking Park here.
JSpec.
Well, both guys are inconsistent. We can all agree on that. Both guys wildly inconsistent. We got, I believe, Tululin's 1-1, and the Iron Turtles 5-2. So, I mean, it's just a matter of quality. What have you seen? What do you know? And when you gather all that information, the Iron Turtle, checks those boxes. He lets us know that he's the guy that's supposed to win this fight for sure. It would be kind of an upset, not just kind of, but a pretty significant upset for Denise to go ahead and get the win. The fans are choosing Park by 70%. The fans loving some Iron Turtle, and so do I. So that is my pick. Let's go, Mr. Park.
All right, so I actually saw Junyoung Park train for the Joseph Holmes fight a few times. I went to Korean Top Team and was training there with him, and then I just kind of observed, and I only got like one round with him. But this guy, he's an all-around good fighter. Like, he's not like excelling in one department, but he can do everything well, right? And one thing about him is he's not going to give you that one punch knockout power. He's going to hit you with volume, and he's going to mix it up, right? And he's very cautious of going in and like acting too wild, right? Because you see certain guys when they see their opponent a little bit hurt, they'll rush in, and sometimes that's not the best thing to do. I think Park, he goes in there, has a solid game plan, mixes in the wrestling well, mixes in the clinch well against Tululin, and yeah, I'm picking Park to win this fight. I'm picking TKO, and I'm gonna go third round finish for Park. For you guys watching right now, leave a comment in the chat. Give us your predictions. Give us your feedback on what do you think about the matchup, and we'll put it on the screen. And if you're watching the replay, put it in the comments, and we'll bounce back to it in the next show. All right, so let's move on to the next fight. Next fight is between Jiyoung Kim and Mandy Baum, a women's flyweight matchup, Korea versus Germany. Kim, 33 years old, 9-6-2 record, 3-6 in the UFC, and she's on a 4-fight losing streak. 5 finishes for her, 2 fight night bonuses. Some interesting facts about her is her average fight time is 14 minutes and 17 seconds in the UFC.
Jeez.
But she lands 6.14 strikes per minute. So she's pretty high volume. Now on the flip side, you got Mandy Baum, 33 years old. They're the same age. 7-2 record with one no contest. 0-2 in the UFC, and of course, if she's 0-2, she's on a 2-fight losing streak. 4 finishes. Her average fight time is 15 minutes because why? She went to decision in both of her fights in the UFC, but she does have a 44% striking accuracy, which is good. You know what I mean? So, Garrett, how do you see this one, man?
Man, okay. From a betting perspective, I am definitely not siding with either one of these two. I'm not betting my hard-earned money on either one of these two. Let's just put it that way. But in terms of the matchup itself, I think we know Kim has fought the better competition, and she's actually looked better in even some of her losses compared to Baum, who's looked bad in both of her losses, and she's looking to go 0-3. Granted, pressure makes diamonds, right? Maybe Baum comes out there, has the best performance of her life because she knows her back's against the wall. But I just don't know if she can get it done. There's nothing that leads me to believe from what I've seen that she can get a win in the UFC. I'm expecting her to go 0-3 and get the boot. But my favorite bet on this one is to take either fighter wins by splits or majority decision at plus 350. Expect it to be very close. Expect it to be very dicey on the judges' scorecards as well. And I'm expecting a split decision either way.
Jay Spizzy, what you got?
I'm surprised this isn't opening the card. I mean, honestly, this matchup is not. I'm sorry, it's just not UFC caliber as we come to know what the UFC is and should be. 0-4 in her last UFC debut. Last UFC fights. Talking about Young Kim, that is. She hasn't had a win since 2019. I mean, come on. That's a long time ago. Sure, Bowman is kind of stinking it up as well. And this is just a matchup to see if we're keeping any of these. Are we getting rid of them? What are we doing with this stuff? And the stuff being these fighters. All right. Do they have the stuff to continue in the UFC? That's what both of these ladies are basically trying to prove to us. Why are we watching you? Is essentially the sentiment for this fight on this card here. So 54% of the picking public is going, the fans that is, are siding with Young Kim. And I just want to set the bar here. 50% is dead even. This is the center point of the coin. So we're not going either which way only. So 4%, a small, tiny 4% of the public going with Young Kim on this. I think that just kind of tells you where people, where people are going, how they feel about this fight. Not good. So my pick, reluctantly, Young Kim.
All right. So number one, JSpec, you're Asian. You should know. It's not Yun Kim. Come on, man. It's Kim. Like
Just
the name. Kim is the name, right? That's her last. Like, come on, guy. Like,
Hey,
like tonight when we move forward, Hyunsung Park. Park is the last name. Sunguk Choi. Choi is the last. Like if there's three, that means the last one is their last name. Because I know that it's confusing, and it's even on the screen over here. It's like that kind of makes me a little bit angry. But I'm just busting your balls. Anyways, with this matchup, you got two fighters on losing streaks. The contract is on the line, right? Even if you win, maybe you're not even going to get re-signed, to be honest with you, right? It's a dog-eat-dog world right now in the UFC. With Kim, she's fought the better competition. She's been screwed on some decisions, right? We know that. We've seen the fights. We've seen what happened. Bomb, we haven't seen much from her, right? She's gone to decisions. She just pretty much loses decisions all the time. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Kim by decision because that's the logical pick. What would you pick anything else, right? Why would you pick anything else? Now let's move on to Road to UFC, man. From this point on, we have all the Road to UFC finals. So the first one will be in the flyweight division, the flyweight finals. Korea versus Korea. We got Hyunsung Park versus Sunguk Choi. Park, 27 years old, undefeated, 7-0 record. He's on a 10-fight win streak. In the first two fights of the tournament, he finished Jera Sinagar by TKO in the first round, and then went back-to-back with another first-round finish against Top Noi via rear naked choke. Choi, he's 26 years old, 6-1 record, 5-fight win streak. He defeated both of his opponents by unanimous decision. Quilin and Rama Superhigh. Fight analyst, what you got on this one?
It's a good one, man. I'm looking forward to this flyweight matchup. This would be the first Korean flyweight to get signed by the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. So it's definitely something to think about, right? These guys coming with a ton of steam ahead of them. 6-1 for Choi, 7-0 for Park. I kind of have to leave with Park side here. I think I like what I've seen more out of him. He's very explosive. He's a really good grappler. And I just think he's a little bit better than Choi. And then Choi, I know he trains with the Korean Zombie, if I'm not mistaken, there as well. And he's not as reminiscent, as him. But, you see a little things that he's learned from him. But ultimately, I think, Park is going to be able to keep this fight where he wants it to be. I think he's a little bit better everywhere. And I'm expecting him to get a finish on the feet via knockout as well.
JSpec.
Well, the thing is, I don't really feel that this road to the UFC has made the impact in the general culture stateside. I don't think a lot of fans stateside have really adhered to this format. I hope that they do check in for the finals at the very least, because these people will be in the UFC and you want to get to know them now. With that being said, there's a reach advantage and just an overall skill set advantage I see for Park of 87%. So a large number of the fans supporting Park, and I'm with the fans on this one. Let's go, Park.
All right, so in Korea, you got like these pound for pound prospects coming up, right? And some of them are on the road to UFC finals, and Park is one of them. He's probably like pound for pound top 5 prospect coming out of Korea. Choi, not so much, right? Secret Birdie told me that these two were originally matched up to fight each other before the Road to UFC tournament, but Choi's team turned down the matchup. So I'm just saying, like, Choi's team turned down the matchup, right? And you mentioned the Korean Zombie. He's a great fighter and everything, but I don't know if he's the greatest coach. Like, I don't know if you want to be learning everything from the Korean Zombie. To be honest, I'm not hating on Korean Zombie. He's a great fighter, but I don't know. Not everybody's it's not, if you look at any sport, like, not just because you're a great player doesn't mean you're a great coach, right? And vice versa. Now, I'm going to take Park in this one. Why? Because Park, I think he showed us the most in that second fight against Top Noi, because he went in there against a really, really good striker, a very superior striker, got knocked down, recovered, and then finished him in the same round. Like, that shows you the hunger that he has, right? And with Choi, like, he's won decisions, right? He's kind of like too blasé in there. There's no urgency. And I feel like once they start to, like, clinch up or grapple, Park is just going to have a way, way, way better skill set. And so I'm going to take Park. I'm going to take submission, and I'm going to take second round for this fight. Now let's move on to the Let me skip up to the bantamweight. The bantamweight finals for Road to UFC, Japan versus Japan. Like, it just shows you Korea and Japan is probably two of the top Asian countries producing the best talent. You already got the first two finals with the same country facing off against each other, right? So you got Rinya Nakamura versus Toshiomi Kazama. Nakamura, 27 years old, undefeated, 6-0, 6-fight win streak. He finished Guzman in the first round via key lock and finished Nose via TKO in the first round as well. So 2 first-round finishes for him. This guy is a legit killer. Toshiomi, 25 years old, 10-2 record, and he defeated in the first round. He defeated his opponent by unanimous decision. In the second round, he got a free pass. His opponent, who was probably the favorite to win the bantamweight tournament, ended up missing weight in Abu Dhabi and couldn't compete. So Kazama gets the free pass to go forward with this into the finals and pretty much get a contract. Fight analyst, what do you got for this fight?
It's not a toss-up. Nakamura is going to probably get the job done here. Minus 435 seems about right. He's going to be very superior in one aspect of it, and that's in the wrestling department. He was a national champion over in his region of choice. And, Kazama, he wasn't really supposed to be in this spot. I mean, he was going to go in, like you said, against a more superior fighter. Probably would have lost it. We would have gotten, a better fight between Nakamura and his other opponent. But in this fight, Nakamura, I honestly, even though he's such a great wrestler and could take it there and get the TKO finish, he probably gets a knockout win on the feet. He's shown that he's got knockout power. He's got more knockouts than he does submissions. And majority of the time, he's getting a win. It's getting a knockout on the feet. I'm expecting more of the same. He's going to get in there. He's going to get a finish, and he's going to get the job done. I kind of want to look at the inside the distance line. Maybe we could cut the juice down a little bit. Nakamura inside the distance, minus 150. I think that's an absolute steal. I think it should be at least closer to minus 190. So, yeah, give me Nakamura to win inside the distance at minus 150.
JSpec, what do you see in this one?
Is it too much to say that this Nakamura is with that Nakamura? I don't know. But Rinya can win from anywhere. If you look up his wins, he's got KO wins, he's got ground and pound wins, he's got submission wins. The dude's a winner. Interesting enough, he's the older guy by 2 years in this matchup and has less experience than Kazama. You guys mentioned it. You guys said it. This is basically for Nakamura to win. He's got lucky, if that's what we're using as a phrase for the dropout in the tournament because of the weight. Last thing to say is, people, pay attention to making weight. It's easy for me because I don't got a weight class to be here talking about it. But for all you fighters and stuff, do you really want to miss the opportunity of a lifetime because of a couple pounds and you're already a fit, good eating person in general? I don't know. 63% of the fans, thank you, AllStar fans, 63% of you going with Nakamura, and this Nakamura with that Nakamura, and I'm done with this.
All Nakamura's everywhere, right? Nakamura, I watched him fight in Singapore, and I was very impressed, man. The guy he's going to be a terror for a couple of years now. not couple years coming in the UFC. The bantamweight division is stacked, and I think that this guy can make some waves in that division because he is such a heavy wrestler. But then he can finish fights on top of that. That's one thing you gotta. There's things that separate fighters, and especially wrestlers. Like wrestlers that can finish fights. There's wrestlers that could wrestle and win, but then there's wrestlers that can finish fights. And this guy is a wrestler that can finish fights. I'm gonna take a TKO for Nakamura, and I'm gonna go with first round. Am I going too crazy with the first rounders? But I picked a favorite in every fight so far. You guys listening? Yeah, I picked a favorite every fight.
You're not wrong. Listen, I mean, the favorites are favorites for a reason, at least in the first couple fights.
Yeah.
Flexing that blue belt privilege. Yeah,
it is blue belt privilege. Get your blue belt so you could pick the method and the round. Now, road to UFC featherweight finals, Korea versus China. China has their only representative in the featherweight division. You got Zhang Yi, 26 years old, 22-3 record with a 3-fight win streak. In the first round, he choked out Sasu in the first round. He choked out Sasu in the first round. And in the second round, he took out Koyomi Matsushima, who is very, very good by unanimous decision in the semifinals. He's facing off against Jungyeon Lee, 27 years old, 9-1 record, 6-fight win streak. First round, he subbed Binzai in 36 seconds, and in the second round, he went and knocked out Liu Kai in 42 seconds. This guy has not even went a minute of fighting in either fight leading up to this. This guy is, if you look at him, you think that he's this like knockout artist striker, but actually he comes from a jiu-jitsu background, and then he's developed his striking into what it is now, and he's just getting better and better and better. Fight analyst, what do you see in this one?
Well, he's definitely one of the best prospects on this road to UFC tournament bracket. I mean, it's inevitable. I mean, the dude has great power. He's got great grappling to go along with it. And I think he gets the job done here. I knew he's very experienced, 21-3. He's got he's very good on the feet. He's good in the grappling as well. But I think Lee's actually a lot bigger than him from what I've seen. I think he's going to be the bigger fighter. He's going to be a longer fighter. I think he's more polished, on the feet as well. I think he's more polished pretty much everywhere. But what he does have, he's got really good cardio, and he's tough as nails, and he bites down his mouthpiece, and he's coming forward majority of the fight. My only worry about Lee is he's not, like you said, hasn't even gotten past round 1 in his last 3 fights. He's won his last 3 fights combined less than 2 minutes. Doesn't mean he can't go deep into fights, because he has in the past, but he hasn't had to in quite some time. That's the only drawback, but I think he goes in there and possibly even gets a first round finish here. I think he's ready to go in there and make his claim in the featherweight division. So I'm taking Lee here.
JSpec, what do you see in this one?
I see one fighter with 3 times the fight experience and still coming in as a 2-1 underdog, getting double your money. That's your big red flag right there for those of you who don't have time or haven't gone back and looked at these fights. If you do go back and watch these fights, you're going to see that one man can pretty much win from anywhere. And when I say from anywhere, I mean power. Generates a lot of power, and that's Lee. He's he can do it. Yeah, obviously he's doing it in real quick time. He's not trying to stay all night long to get the job done. So also to that, he's got the physical advantages. He's a little taller and a little longer. 3 inches up, 3 inches long. That's a 6-inch total physical advantage for Mr. Lee. So, also 66% of the fans, the picking public, supporting the same man I am supporting. That's Mr. Lee. So let's get it done, please.
All right, so with Lee, I've been watching Lee since, I don't even know, like back in the day. The guy, I remember when he was just a submission guy, like a grappler fighting, and then he just becomes this all-around fighter. And I don't even think we've seen the best of him yet. This guy is still developing, and as he gains more experience, he's going to become better. I'll be very, very shocked if this fight goes out the first round, to be honest with you, because both these guys can finish in the first round. I think Lee wins this fight. and I think he gets a submission. I think they're going to tangle on the ground, but I'm going to go with the first round finish for Lee on the ground. Now, let's move on to the wait up. What happened? Oh, we gotta zoom back and go to the lightweight finals. India versus Indonesia. I'm smelling like Indonesia. If you know that, then you're old. But we got the lightweight finals road to UFC. Anshul Jubilee versus Jekka Sarajai. 28 years old, both of them 28 years old. Jubilee undefeated 6-0 record. He's on a 7-fight win streak. In the first round in Singapore, he also got a free pass, like we mentioned earlier, for I forgot his name. In Singapore, he got a free pass because his opponent had a botched weight cut in Singapore, never made it to the scale, never made it to the fight. So he got a free pass, went to the second round, got a unanimous decision over Kyung-Pyo Kim. Kyung-Pyo Kim, one of the favorites to win the lightweight finals, but Jubilee went in there and got the clean decision over him. Jekka, this guy's a wild man, 28 years old, 13-2 record, 5-fight win streak. He's knocked out both of his opponents in this tournament. One Bin Kim in the first round, and then Pawan Man Singh in the third round with the spinning back fist. What do you see? Oh, wait. We're getting some from the producers. Oh, we got a clip from an interview with the AllStar with Jubilee. Let's listen to what he has to say.
I'll just want to perform a very because I'm fighting in Vegas and everything. I just want to perform. I'm not stupid. Obviously, I'm a very intelligent fighter, so I know what to do. I'll not be stupid. There is very explosive, very very good brawler, very technical brawler. But my plan is to finish this fight. I'm my skill wise, I think I'm very I'm here way above him, and so. I should win this fight with a finish.
What do you think?
I don't know about finishes, and we're talking about a guy that's got 2 finishes in the 6 fights, so it's going to be very hard to finish someone like Jekka, who's I think he's very sound everywhere. I mean, he's like you said, he's very explosive, right? He's a guy that's coming in there and knocking out majority of his opponents. I think he's got 4 knockouts in his last 5 fights. He's even got submission wins under his belt too. He's got twice as many fights as a Jubilee as well. He's got against much better competition than Jubilee has fought. I would say maybe around the Kim range. He's fought fighters maybe near his level, but Jubilee, I think he's fought guys that are like him. I mean, look at his last fight. I think it was his first fight. He got a knockout his last fight against Key, right? Same intangibles in terms of height and reach. And, in that fight, he looked like he fought, a guy that's kind of in the UFC. He's got a lot of power. He was very good at range, but Jekka was able to get in range, and he utilizes his quickness for his short stature. I think it was 5'8", but he uses quickness and multiple different combinations. He's got nasty leg kicks, body kicks, head kicks. He's finished guys with leg kicks in the past. We know that Jubilee leads heavy on that lead leg. I'm expecting it to get absolutely butchered from the get-go, which is going to stop the movement and from Jubilee. And Jubilee, he's good at range. He utilizes his 1-2s. He utilizes that reach very well. Doesn't throw a ton of kicks, so that kind of helps out Jekka in this matchup because he throws a ton of kicks to keep at range and keep in the kickboxing range. And then when Jubilee does what I don't like that he does is where he leaves his hands down after he throws some combinations. So I'm expecting him to get cracked, get countered. I'm expecting him to get knocked out.
JSpec?
Well, when you look at this, the guys are about the same height. They have the same reach. They're not the same height, excuse me, the same age. They got the same reach. One man is taller, that being Jubilee. They both leave a lot of questions in your mind. There's no pick here that is really safe or enticing that you're like, oh yeah, I guarantee this guy. It's interesting. I watched both of their fights, and all it can really come from the end of the day is that Jubilee likes to cut the promo. He's way better on the mic than Jekka. But one thing we can say is Jekka is coming in with a built-in nickname. When we talk about the American or North American fans, when you have a foreign fighter who has a built-in nickname like Jekka, where we can just totally ignore the rest of his ethnic name, which I totally don't disrespect. I totally love it. I just wish I could say it cleanly. What do we get? We get the Jiris of the world. And that's what I'm hoping Jekka to be. And that's even though 65% of the fans are signing up with Jubilee, this is one time that I'm not with the public. I'm usually the people's champ, but this time I'm going against it. I'm going with Jekka.
Man, it's mixed emotions in this one, right? Because Jekka, he's just so like spectacular. He's just so explosive, right? But then he's reckless at the same time, and we haven't seen anybody go in against him with a like a solid game plan and execute that solid game plan and stay away from the power. You know what I mean? One being key, he just went in there and started to wanted to brawl with him. You know what I mean? And guess where he trained? Korean Zombie MMA. You know what I mean? I just told you like earlier about Choi. And then he got sparked like bad, right? That was one of the nastiest knockouts I've ever seen. I think the nastiest knockout of the tournament. And Singh was just wild. He never had a plan in that fight. He just lasted long because he had a solid chin against Jekka. And Jekka, I think he showed a lot of vulnerabilities in that fight. Jubilee, not as tested, but I think his training went to the next level when he went to Indonesia, when he went to Bali and actually got a head coach and training partners. And he showed that in his last fight against Kim. And Kim is a high-level fighter. I think Kim would be a guy that would probably be signed eventually to the UFC, even though he lost to Jubilee. I'm going to take Jubilee. I think Jubilee is going to go in there, and he's focused on winning. He's not focused on entertaining. Jekka, I think, is more going to get caught up in the moment and maybe even gas himself out trying to finish Jubilee, and Jubilee's going to stay away from power. I think he's going to be smart about it. So I'm taking Jubilee. I'm taking the decision, and maybe I'm wrong, but I like Jubilee. I think he's going to be smart about it. Now, moving on to the main card. We got a welterweight matchup, Japan versus the USA, Yusaku Kinoshita versus Adam Fugit. Kinoshita, 22 years old. Man, it seems like he should be in the Road to UFC tournament, to be honest with you. I don't know why he's not, but he's making his UFC debut. 6-1 record. Yeah, like I said, he's making his UFC debut on the Contender Series. He got a third round TKO victory last August. And he has one loss, but you guys got to remember that his only loss was due to a fence grab while he was stomping out his opponent, like stomping him out, pride rules. So remember that. So basically he's undefeated. He's kind of like the John Jones thing. You know what I mean? Like he lost because of a disqualification, but at the end of the day that he won that fight. Now on the other side, you got Adam Fugit, 34 years old, 8-3. And 0-1 in the UFC in his debut. On short notice, he was finished by Miranda via TKO in the third round. But he does actually have a few finishes. He has 7 finishes out of his 8 victories, 4 by knockout and 3 by submission. Fight analyst, man, what do you see, man? There's a lot of contrasting views on this one.
I like Kinoshita. I think he looked good in his Contender Series fight. He went up against a really, really tall, rangy
wait up. We got a phone. We got a little disturbance. Sorry, fight analyst. We're gonna play a clip from Adam Fugit's interview and get his views on the fight. Here we go.
I don't have a contract after this fight, so I need to go in there and prove I belong there and really put on a show and go after that next contract. Otherwise, the gatekeeper is probably on his way out. But so I'm gonna get in there and my game plan is to make him fight at my range, my pace and my space, and if he wants to kind of abuse that a little bit too much, he might find himself getting tied up and taken down. And I'm just as confident in wrestling and in jiu-jitsu, and I like to think of myself as that melting pot of mixed martial arts.
Can you really call yourself the gatekeeper when you're 0-1 in the UFC? I don't know. But in terms of this matchup, I think Fugit's gonna have some good. He's gonna have some good spurts, right? I feel like it's gonna be early on, kind of like in the Morales fight, where he looked good early on, gave Morales some troubles early. Up against Cage, kind of just utilizing the clinch work and the grappling and just keeping him off balance, right? He was just going to give him the space to work. Being this fight's at the apex, I think he's going to be able to do that early on. But I think Shida's going to be able to utilize his distance management. He likes that karate style type of striking out at distance. More to the mid to the later portion of round 1, and then early round 2, he's going to find his rhythm, and I'm expecting him to knock him out in round 2 and get the job done. I think Shida's going to look good. He looked like a good prospect coming in on the Contender Series, and I expect him to get the job done here.
JSpec, what are the people saying?
First off, let's get on to that wonderful interview that you shared with us. That's another reason why you need the AllStar Sports app. All right. I wish I seen that interview before right now. That's the worst kind of attitude you're ever going to hear from a fighter. Always already talking about not labeling himself a gatekeeper, and you're 0-1 in the UFC already, dude. Plus you're like 34 or something like that. I don't know. That's not the right attitude. Anyways, moving on. Kinoshita making his UFC debut at the higher levels of mixed martial arts. He is 0-1, like you mentioned in Ryzen. He was winning. He was just, holding the cage while stomping somebody out. Oopsies. The one thing we have to consider, though, is Adam has already gone through the octagon jitters. His back is against the wall, and he has a 6-inch reach advantage, which is pretty significant. That's, to me, when people talk like a 1-inch, 2-inch reach advantage, I don't worry about that too much. But a 6-inch one, that's something we have to consider. 77% of the picking public going with Mr. Kinoshita. And in a rare occurrence, I'm going to go the opposite way. I know Fugit hasn't lived up to what he probably hopes and what his fans hope. It's a combination of stuff going on. It's the UFC debut, and he got a man back against the wall. I wish he had a little bit more eye of the tiger, instead of kind of having a little bit of self-doubt in that interview. But on the other hand, I really do believe that people perform their best when they must. And this is a must win for Adam Fugit. So I'm going with the underdog. I'm going with the less popular choice in Adam Fugit.
There's a reason why the UFC brought him into the Contender Series with only 6 fights. There's a reason why he's 22 and making his UFC debut, because this kid is talented. This kid has the skills. He has the skill set. He finishes fights. And I think that he's going to do the same in this one. It might not be quick. It might take him a while, but he's going to get there. He's going to find a way to finish the fight. I'm taking Kinoshita via TKO in the 3rd round. All right, let's go to the next matchup. Featherweight matchup between Doo-Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy, versus and Kyle Nelson, the Canadian, the monster. Now, Choi, he is 31 years old, 14-4 record, 3-3 in the UFC, and on a 3-fight losing streak. He has 86% finishing rate, 11 knockouts, 5 fight night bonuses, but he is on a 3-year layoff. He's returning, so ring rust might be a factor. Nelson, 31 years old, same age, 13-5 record, 1-4 in the UFC on a 2-fight losing streak. He has a 69% finishing rate with 5 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 7 first-round finishes. So, Garrett, man, what do you see in this one? This is an exciting one, I think.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get some fireworks. They're 2 primarily strikers. I think Nelson's going to want to kind of mix it up a little bit once he gets, punched in the face by Choi. But primarily we're to see them fight at range, right? Where I think Choi just, I think he's quicker. I definitely think he's got more power. And I don't like betting on a guy in Kyle Nelson that's going up and down in weight classes because he doesn't know where he can fit in. So that's where he's at right now in the part of his career where he was just fighting at 155. That didn't work out. He lost. He got steamrolled. Now he's back down to 145, going against Doo-Ho Choi, who was good, fighting great competition, but hasn't fought in 3 years. He lost to Cub Swanson, Jeremy Stevens, Charles Jourdain, all 3 guys far, far better than Kyle Nelson will ever be in his entire career. But that 3-year layoff is what kind of making me kind of not want to bet this fight and just kind of see where Choi is right now in this part of his career. But granted, only 31, 3 years off. maybe it does good for him. It's not like 3 years off and he's 34, 35. No, he's 3 years off and he's in his prime. So I do expect him to win this fight. Maybe I'll see how it is come fight night, and he's looking in good shape. Maybe I'll place a bet on him. But right now I'm holding off. But I definitely have Troy getting the job done. Finally getting back on track and getting into the winning ways.
JSpec, how's the public feeling about the Korean Superboy?
Well, they want him to win, just like the UFC wants him to win. This fight is set up for a return from 3 years of layoff that you guys previously mentioned. He has some losses, but against very credible names. The big thing is just what has he been up to, right? We know what he's been up to. He's been serving the great nation of Korea in his military service, but that's no consolation to fight fans. What are you in the cage? We don't know. It's been a long time. On the other side, Mr. Nelson, underwhelming, underperforming, 1-4 in the UFC. Well, we can address that weight thing though. He had lots of notice for this fight. It's not like he's just diving into this weight class haphazardly. He had time, like I said, and prepared to do it. He expected to have this fight over in Korea. So for what it's worth, Mr. Nelson's ready for this call to action. Now, the people go 52%, and remind you, 50% is dead even. So 52%, 2% edge of the fans want to go with Doo-Ho Choi in this one. I personally am going the other way. I want to see I know Mr. Nelson knows his back's against the wall. I know I said this earlier tonight, but it seems to work out. He knows his back's against the wall. He knows he needs this win. This is a whole lot of finding out what version of Doo-Ho Choi do we have. And I'm going to go with the underdog this time, Mr. Nelson.
All right. You know who else had a 3-year layoff and came back and did really well? The Korean Zombie. And he came back around that similar age, right? And I like that Choi took this time away and got his body right, because every time he was injured, his last fight was supposed to be against Dan Chavez, right? And he got an injury, pulled out, and he got it right. He's been training the whole time. You know what I mean? He has a great team in Team Mad, and now he just added Zombie MMA as well. I think Zombie is cornering him this week in the Apex. I think so. I think he is. And who else to have a great sparring partner than the Korean Zombie, right, at featherweight? I think we're gonna see Choi come back and get the knockout. I think he's gonna, like JSpec said, it's tailor made for him. I think he's gonna go in there. I'm gonna pick Choi, knockout, first round. I think we're gonna see people going crazy over Choi in this fight, because he's gonna add to his highlight reel basically, and the UFC and everybody else is gonna be getting crazy. Now moving on, heavyweight matchup. It's top 15. Two top 15 fighters facing off. Marcin Tybura versus Blagov Ivanov. Tybura, ranked number 10 in the division, 37 years old, 23-7 record, 10-6 in the UFC. He has wins over Alexander Romanov, Sergey Spivac, who is in the main event, Andrei Arlovsky, and Walt Harris. 3 performance of the night bonuses, 19 total takedowns in the UFC, which is very, very high. And he has landed 1,322 total strikes, and his takedown defense, 79%. Ivanov, on the flip side, he is number 15 in the rankings, 36 years old. He's actually younger than Tybura, but if you looked at them, you would think Ivanov is like 50. 19-4, 1 no contest, 3-3 in the UFC. He has wins over Tai Tuivasa and Ben Rothwell. He's only fought twice in the last 3 years, and his last win was against Marcos Rodrigo de Lima 8 months ago. Garrett, man, like, is this a good matchup? Is this a fun one?
I don't know about a fun one, but it's a fight that I'm definitely betting on. I really like Tybura in this matchup. I mean, he's looked the best he's ever looked. Granted, 38 years old, not great, but I mean, he's got the huge physical advantages here. He's 4 inches taller. He's got 5 inches in reach as well, and he's the better grappler of the two. And he's got a great chin on him. I mean, The only person that has been that's beaten in the last 2 to 3 years is Alexander Volkov, who's got fantastic takedown defense and is a skyscraper that's able to keep at range and just jab you and fuck kick you to death. That is definitely not something Blagoy is going to be able to do in this matchup. He's not going to be able to keep his distance. He's not going to be able to keep at range. Tybura is going to be able to come forward, throw his punches, stay at his range, get in his range, get up against the cage, and take him down. And you're talking about a guy that got taken down by Derek Lewis and Rogerio de Lima. You know for a fact Tybura is getting him down at least one time in this fight. And I think that's just one time he can either finish it or he's stuck there for the rest of the round. So I think he just get one takedown a round. I'm expecting him to keep Blagoy Ivanov there for the rest of the round and get this win. I feel it's not going to be a finish. We're going to get the decision.
JSpec.
Well, this is one of those times where you just go with your first reaction. When you think of Tybura, many things come to your mind. When you think of Blagoy Ivanov, one thing comes to your mind, and that's just being tough. And like we always say in our spaces, watch along fight parties, the worst compliment in MMA is to be tough. If that's the leading attribute you can come to your mind when you think of a fighter, that's usually not good, especially when you look at his activity of who he's fought and who he's lost against. I mean, the highlights of Blagoy's career is kind of just everyday work for Tybura. I'm for Tybura. He's a little bit bigger, like Garrett already mentioned. He's got the physical attributes to go with it. He's got the experience and all that stuff. And yeah, I in the wildest ways of comparison, making a comparison between these two fighters, I just don't see a win other than, the classic heavyweight, thing we say, puncher's chance in the heavyweight division. Anybody can get knocked down in the heavyweight. And that's basically all we got, unfortunately, for Ivanov. 73% of the picking public is going with Tybura, and I'm not going against them. I'm with Marcin Tybura in this matchup.
I'm taking Tybura in this matchup. I like him. I think he's just a better all-around fighter, much more active, more experienced, high level of competition. And I think he just shines in one aspect of the game more than Ivanov does. So I'm taking Tybura. I'm gonna say he's gonna get the TKO finish on the ground. I think he's gonna go to the ground and pound this dude out. I'm gonna go with second round. I think the referee's gonna have to stop the fight. I think that's what's gonna happen. He's just gonna be able to control him and just pound him out. Now moving on, co-main event, light heavyweight division, Korea versus USA. It's like the Cold War again. Taewoon Jung, 29 years old, 15-3-1 record, 4-1-1 in the UFC. He has wins over William Knight and Kennedy Njoku, which are pretty solid wins, man. Two different types of fighters, two different body types, and he's beaten both of them. He has an 87% finishing rate with 11 knockout victories. On the other side, you got Devin Clark, pretty much a polar opposite from Taewoon Jung. 32 years old, 13-7 record, 7-7 in the UFC, a lot of experience. He also has a win over William Knight and a win over Alonzo Menafield. I think you shouldn't look past that because Alonzo Menafield is a terror. And then Darko Stosic, he has a victory over him. Clark, 38% finishing rate, six decision wins in the UFC, 54% significant strike accuracy, and 1,030 total strikes landed in the UFC's light heavyweight division. Is pretty high. He's fought 14 times, so the numbers will get pretty high, especially if you win 6 decisions in that division. Let's go to the little clip that we have from the AllStar of Devin Clark talking about Taewoon Jung.
As a wrestler, I like his style. He stands up. He's got skinny little hips that I could easily grab. Obviously, he's tall, and a great striker. So a little harder to get on guys like that. But we have our ways. We have our methods. We've definitely trained for all that. And I'm excited about it. He's a tough guy, tough competitor, and I'm up for the challenge.
I've actually sparred Taewoon Jung a few times. He was going light while me and stuff, but he he like hit me with some heavy body shots, which knocked me down and had me breathing pretty hard. But he's a light heavyweight. He's a massive individual, a super nice guy. I like this fight. I think it's a good matchup for both guys. Fight analyst, what do you see in this one?
Man, this fight is predicated on one thing, right? And it comes down to whether or not this fight goes to the mat. Because if this fight does not go to the mat, Clark is 110% going to get probably knocked out. Jung is a far superior striker than Clark will ever be, and Clark knows that. He's talking about it in his interview. He definitely needs to get this fight to the mat, and we have yet to really see how well Jung's takedown defense is. I mean, he's only had to defend takedowns against 2 fighters thus far in his time in the UFC, and they went 1 for 9 combined. And that was William Knight and Kadiz Ibrahimov, I think it was, in his first fight, where he went 1 for 6. So not good wrestlers. This is going to be his real first test. Clark, I think, may get 1 or 2 takedowns, but I don't expect him to keep that pace up for 15 minutes. I think Jung's going to be able to get back to his feet at some point, and then he's going to absolutely starch him and put him out. He's definitely getting a knockout, and he's definitely getting this win.
JSpec.
Well, people want Devin Clark to win this. Surprisingly, that's what I've heard mostly about. But when I looked at the statistics, it shocked me that Jung actually has the popular vote, getting 60% of that. Now, when we look at these two fighters, there's one fighter that's hovering and one fighter that is just waiting for his moment, waiting for his breakout moment. And I believe that fighter is Jung. No disrespect to Clark in any way, but he's been in the game. He's, I believe, 7-7 in the UFC. He's shown us what he's got, and he's a very capable fighter. I just think that the upside is all on Jung, and I'm gonna have to side with the picking public on this one. We're going Jung.
All right, so if you've noticed, like, my picks so far, I've picked every Korean fighter, and it's going to be the same for this one. I like Devin Clark. He's a good dude. I mean, I've interviewed him a bunch of times. I've interviewed Jung as well. Like I mentioned earlier, I trained with him at a Korean top team. But I think Jung, he's going to be able to just neutralize the wrestling eventually, right? And once he neutralizes the wrestling, then he's going to find openings. It could be a submission, it could be a knockout. But I think I'm going to lean towards Jung getting the submission in maybe the 3rd round. I think it's going to be close for the first 2 rounds, and then Jung will probably be able to pull away in the 3rd round, hopefully. And let's see, man. Let's see. Anyways, main event time. Heavyweights. Big heavyweights as well. I don't know. Maybe Derek Lewis, he lost a bunch of weight, so maybe he's not a big heavyweight anymore. He looks pretty slim. Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivac. Lewis ranked number 7 in the division, 37 years old, 26-10 with 1 no contest, 17-8 in the UFC on a 2-fight losing streak. He has victories over Chris Daukaus, Curtis Blades, Alexander Volkov, and Francis Ngannou. 85% finishing rate, 13 KOs in the UFC, which is the record. No one's even close to that. Nobody's even close to that. 8 knockdowns in the UFC and 7 performance of the night bonuses. Sergey Spivac on the flip side, number 12 ranked, 28 years old, much younger, 15-3 record, 6-3 in the UFC on a 2-fight winning streak. Wins over Augusto Sakai, Greg Hardy, and Tai Tuivasa. 13 finishes, 7 knockouts, 6 submissions. Fight analyst. This is a pretty good matchup, I think, man. It's going to show a lot of like either side where they are in their careers. What do you see?
I think this fight comes down to whether or not Lewis can get the knockout. And I think it's got to be in the first 10 minutes of the fight. Because Spivac, while he does get hit, I mean, he leaves his head out there while he's trying to come forward and get in the clinch. He's tough, and he's only been knocked out twice, Tom Aspinall and Walt Harris. Granted, very good power punchers, as we've seen in the past. But, in this matchup, I don't know, man. Like I'm afraid to bet against Lewis's power here, but I think I have to go with Spivac here, especially considering he's got a massive grappling advantage. We're talking about Lewis is only 55% takedown defense lifetime in his UFC career. Spivac is averaging over 4 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's successful on 63% of those takedowns, which is unheard of. That's like almost Curtis Blades-esque right there. But yeah, and I think he's going to be able to take Lewis down and just ground him out at some point in this fight. He's gonna be huffing and puffing. Granted, he lost some weight, but it's not like he lost some weight because he chose to lose weight. No, it's from COVID, puking, and just having a bad case of of COVID. So it's not like he just decided to get in shape. No, he lost some weight because he had COVID. So I think Spivac goes in there and eventually takes him down and grounds him out for the TKO.
JSpec.
He lost weight because of COVID. That's what I was just about to jump into. Everybody's so quick to jump into the most recent pictures. I've fallen for this trap before. Hey, look, Derek Lewis is working out. Derek Lewis is on a Stairmaster. Lewis is looking, more in shape than ever before. You know who looks more in shape than ever before? One Sergey Spivac. He's literally evolved his body. Go look at like 3-4 fights ago, and then look at the body he has now. It's gone in one steady direction, and that's better and better and better. The other thing, look at Mr. Lewis's previous activity, most recent activity, 2 knockout losses. He is 37 years of age, and it's around about this time that we can start questioning dude's chins. And Derek's not one that we question his chin in general, but just 2 knockouts back to back. And on the other side, Sergey's on a little bit of a run. He's 9 years younger. All right, that's pretty significant. You look at their total activity in the UFC, 17-8 is Derek Lewis's professional record in the UFC, but most of those losses have come all at the high end of the spectrum, almost all of them actually. But most recently he's taking L's and KOLs. The picking public, the fans, the people I love so much, all going with Mr. Lewis right now. 65% of the picking public signing up with Mr. Lewis, but I am not, and let me tell you why. All right, there is, just like Garrett just said, there's one way, and we keep hearing this over and over and over, but this time it's going to stick. There's one way for Derek Lewis to win. That's the same way it's always been. It's not like he's going to find some magical way of grappling you and doing that. He kicks, but they're more comical kicks than functional kicks. I hate to say it. I hate this to be the definitive moment that I say it, but I'm selling all my Derek Lewis stock. The time for Derek Lewis to be a champion and all that has come and gone. If he was going to be a champion, he would have won it on just likability alone. There's very few people who is as loved as much as Derek Lewis, but unfortunately for me, I'm selling out. Derek Lewis, I'm done with you. I'm done supporting your cause. I'm done saying all he needs to do is land his right hand. There's so much to landing that right hand, and I just don't think he has it. Sergey, on the other hand, has been doing everything correct to keep going up. He keeps going up. His skill set, his body, everything going up. Derek Lewis has been a flat line for a long time. So my pick, 1, Sergey Spivac.
All right. Well, Derek Lewis, you got to love the guy. He's a great personality. He has highlight reels after highlight reel after highlight reel. The guy is an animal. He's just a enjoyable person to watch in this industry, right? There's no filter with him, right? He's him. He's who he is. But in this fight, man, I'm going to have to go with Spivac. I think Spivac goes in there and plays it smart and stays away from the power. And, we've seen Lewis kind of gas himself out. And if you look at all the fights he's lost, most of his fights, he's lost in the second round. It's like after he's like thrown all his bullets, his clips, he's emptied the clip and he's tired and he's like, oh, there's no way. He's a lot of the fights he's lost in the second round. There's fights he's lost in the first round as well. But in the second round, that's like his sweet spot. I'm taking Spivac via submission in the second round for this fight. I think that's what's going to happen. But I would love to see Lewis win.
Spivac to win in round 2 is plus 550.
You see? Somebody better put some money on there, but don't blame me if you
Ooh.
lose it. Okay, don't blame me.
Spivac to win by submission in round 2 plus 1,300.
Wow. Well, we'll see. We'll see next week, or we'll see in a couple days what happens in this fight. Now, everybody, make sure you guys utilize the AllStar app. If you don't have the app and you want to make picks, just like on the screen, I've been making picks throughout the show. Just go in the descriptions and download the app and make your picks. If you go back, if you're looking at the screen, these are my picks right here. It all lines up perfectly on top. Go back here. You got all the other shows on the bottom coming up. We got them all right there. Actually, I'm a purple belt. Look at me. I'm a purple belt. I earned all the way to purple belt level. And also, if you guys go to the bottom of the screen, you could go to the latest. And if you push latest, you get all of these. You get the interviews. You get the shows. You get all the news from all the sources. MMA Junkie, MMA Mania, MMA Fighting, Bloody Elbow, everything right here, all in one spot. You know what I mean? All in one spot. You get everything you need to know about the sport, about UFC, PFL, Bellator, everything. So just go in there, utilize this, and help yourself, man. It's all free. You don't have to pay for it. Let me remove this off the screen. Everybody, thank you for joining us. If you're watching the replay, just make your picks in the descriptions down or in the comments below. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next week to preview and to make picks on the crazy card, the pay-per-view UFC 284 going down in Perth, Australia. But before that, join me on Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the recap show of this UFC Vegas 68 and Road to UFC. I'll be having a few media members on to recap the show and just talk about what's been going on in the world of MMA. Thank you, JSpec. Thank you, Garrett, for coming on and giving your expertise. We will see you guys next week. Take care.